All right. Aloha, everyone. Welcome to this evening's event, which is titled Alamat and P-pop, a conversation on representation and diversity in cultural productions. I think this conversation is timely and relevant, especially because, as many of us know, Filipino culture is very diverse, and thus representation really matters. I'm Jason, and together with my colleague, Precious Arau, we are moderating today's session. Here's Precious. This event is brought to you by the Filipino Language and Culture Program at the University of Hawaii at Manoa in collaboration with Magilio Official. Precious?
Right, so we are very lucky to have two guest speakers with us today. So first we have Eric Gerard H. Nebran, a PhD candidate in the Comparative Literature program at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. And next we also have MJ Kagumbay Tumamak, a writer and reading advocate from Southern Mindanao and currently the administrative head of Aklat Alamid.
All right, just want to also remind everybody that, if you have questions, you may tweet. We have an official hashtag Alamat P-pop panel. Precious will copy it in the chat and you may use that official hashtag for your questions. So Eric, if I may, and also MJ, could you tell us more about yourselves and the work that you do as it relates to our topic tonight? Okay, maybe we can start with Eric.
Hi everyone, gandang umaga. I'm Eric Gerard Nebran. I'm a teacher and translator. I hail from General Santos City. That's a city in southern Philippines. Our only claim to fame is Manny Pacquiao. Okay, Jensen. From where I'm from, we are a multicultural and multilingual place, so it is not uncommon for someone to speak a different language at home than another at work or in school. And also in my background as a translator and a student of the comparative literature program, I support initiatives that are championing inclusivity, diversity, and representation. A little trivia, I got into stan culture because of MJ, my companion here. He introduced me to P-pop, so I think it's a full circle moment then to have him here with me to talk about P-pop production. So thank you very much, organizers, for inviting us.
Sige. So good day, everyone. I'm MJ. I'm also from Southern Mindanao, and I'm a writer and researcher. And I'm also just gonna warn you that I'm a code switcher, no? Kasi in any of the languages that I speak actually, no? So I don't speak straight English, Filipino, Binisaya, or Hiligaynon, no? I mix up words and from different languages. And I used to be apologetic about it, but I realized that it's the reality in our region and even in contemporary Filipino society. So I'm happy to be invited to this event to share a bit about diversity and representation in the artistic and cultural productions in the Philippines. And obviously, we are using the music videos of Alamat as our springboard for discussion. And as Eric have mentioned, no, I was actually the one who introduced him to P-pop in general, but he was the one who encouraged me to zoom in on Alamat. No, and personally, I don't identify as a stand of Alamat, but I support them in ways I'm comfortable doing, like listening to their songs and recommending them to other people. Kasi I find Alamat parang a breath of fresh air in the Pinoy pop or P-pop industry because they really champion diversity and inclusivity in their body of work, which is parang for the longest time no in the musical history of the Philippines is absent no, and we really need ko talaga diversity and representation. So yun po muna. Thank you everyone again.
Right. Thank you, MJ and Eric. I agree with you. I think it's about time that we had all of these diversity being represented in Philippine music. When I first watched one of the music videos of Alamat, I was like, oh my goodness, we really need this kind of diversity. So I think it's time to watch one of the videos of Alamat, and then after that, our panel will discuss the cultural productions involved in the video. Right, Precious?
Yes. So again, our agenda is simple. We'll play 3 music videos by Alamat. First one is K-Bye, followed by Say You Love Me, and then finally Ili Ili. So I'll play each video and then we'll have a discussion after each one. Right. So please stand by.
Huwag mo nang pigilan ang laman ng iyong damdamin. Alam ko na ang tunay mo na dahilan. Ba't agad kang umalis na nagsabi mo na sa'kin para naman napaghandaan, yeah. Ba't bigla ka na lang umalis, hindi ka nang paalam, girl. Siguro ang pag-ibig mo sa'kin ito samantala lang, yeah. Sanay noon pa lang agad mo nang inamin. Madali lang naman akong kausapin. Suot pagod na rin naman ako sa atin. Wala akong pake, hindi ka kawalan sa akin.
Alam mo mga alaala, mga sandaling ikaw ay kasama, iba ang dala ng hindi at mata. Kahit sa magtungo ay nariyan ka, di mapaghiwalay. Gabi man o umaga, mapalo sa tutulog sa kama. Hanggang sa pagising ikay nakikita sa sobrang siya, ako'y napapaluhan siya.
Bakit ba nakaganon? Bakit ba nagkaganyan? Ano ba ngayon? Ano ba ang dahilan?
Nasaan ang iyong pangako, nagbago, nalago, bigla na lang naglaho.
Ba't bigla ka na lang umalis, hindi ka nagpaalam, girl. Siguro ang pag-ibig mo sa'kin ay pansamantala lang. Pansamantala lang ba? Sanay noon pa lang agad mo nang inamin. Madali lang naman akong kausapin. Sabay pagod na rin naman ako sa atin. Wala akong pake, hindi ka kawalan sa akin. Masin ka to, kang ako ng pangitan. Sa magkatakot mong kusog na katawa. Ang tao naman ako na kaila. Sa imong pangalan, di kaliman halika.
Ay, di ka litra kong biya, dito di ka sa iya. Abi ko na mawala ka, kadali, pero di ko nagyud ka uli.
Ikaw pa, ang may gana nga magbaya sa ating nabisan sa mga gamit mo. Kung baka baka, ikaw sige lang ba? Sunukan mo mo, kahit ka ko kay ba't naninggewa mo. Heran ako pagtawanan, tsapan na no sobya mo.
Hindi ka't naragsak taunay. Sakto lang maamiris, nagdagainap lang bigay.
Kaya ano ka binaya, kasing-kasing ko imogin tinto, girl. Siguro pag-igugma mo akong uyas-uyas good love, yeah. Isa nakatupa lang sa inabi mo na tulos. Madali man lang ako nakaunayon. So ako dapat naman ako sa tuya. Wala akong pakib ako kung kawaran sa kuya. Ba't bigla ka na lang umalis, hindi ka nagpaalam. Siguro ang pag-ibig mo sa'kin ay pansamantala. Sanay noon pa lang agad mo nang inamin. Madali lang naman akong kausapin. Suwa pagod na rin naman ako sa atin. Wala akong pake, hindi ka kawalan sa akin. Wala akong magagawa. Kung gusto mo lumisan na ikaw ang bahala. Pero sana iyong makita na pwede bang ayusin natin ang mga nasira. Sabihin mo na rin ang iyong kailangan. Handa akong punan lahat ng pagkukulang. Baka naman pwede pa natin pag-usapan. Ikaw lang ang silbing kamot sa aking kalungkutan. Bigla kang umalis, hindi ka nagpaalam. Pag-ibig mo siguro ay pansamantala lang. Bigla kang umalis, hindi ka nagpaalam. Pag-ibig mo siguro ay pansamantala lang.
All right. I noticed that I think there's some glitch in the video. So for the next video, I will try playing it from my end, Precious, because I think some parts were like frozen. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So let's have MJ and Eric talk about the first video.
Okay, so I remember that this was the music video that MJ sent to me before, and he said, "Oh, Eric, check this out. There's a boy group singing in various languages." And at first, my first viewing, I thought the concept is genius. Now, I wasn't a fan pa back then, and I saw them holding up
Join the meeting.
jeepney barker signs representing their hometowns, and I said, "Wait, here's a P-pop group. Here's a boy group representing various places in the Philippines." And halfway into the song, I heard the beat changed and someone started singing in Binisaya, and I understood it. And also, I heard Hiligay Nun. Okay? So, uh,
Paano?
Hiligay Nun or Ilonggo. And it's not really common to have this kind of form in the industry. I mean, whenever a song becomes viral, a song in a different language apart from the dominant Tagalog, there is often a label for it. Like if a Binisaya song suddenly becomes popular, it's relegated to bis rock. Okay, there's
Mhm.
a different genre um, where it is classified. So having Alamat commanding attention uh, in mainstream music, it was something that caught my attention. So several months later, I decided to open a Twitter account, and then I started. I I fell into the rabbit hole of an Stan Live. Okay. Now, I'll transition to MJ now. We were talking about literary and cultural productions because uh, why is it a big deal? Okay, why is it amazing to have a group of people from different parts of the Philippines singing in different languages and championing their own brand of Filipino-ness?
Mhm.
Mm,
There's a theory in sociology, economics and politics, and even in literature. Tawag natin dito, center-periphery model, where dominant institutions or dominant forces get to dictate our cultural and literary productions. So we see this in many ways. For example, the concept of a national literature. Okay, whenever we teach stories or literature that's labeled as Philippine Lit, okay, we draw from this body of national literature. Then there's also a body of work designed to champion language or
mm,
national languages, the
Mhm.
concept of Filipino. Okay. So having Alamat challenge this, okay, the center periphery model, the periphery, those in the margins, being involved in the production of music, okay, is exciting. Okay. I think their creative director before, Mr. Laksamana, had that as a study. If OPM is supposed to represent Filipino music, why is it that the vast number of songs in OPM are sung in um, Tagalog, okay? And there's only a few um, songs who made it into mainstream radio airplay, like Porke or Dayang Dayang. That's basically in another language. I think MJ, you're familiar with this because MJ is a publisher of books in different languages. So MJ, anong masasabi mo about
sige.
this?
Siguro, thank you, Eric. No, so I also think no na it's a big deal. No, what Alamat is doing is a big deal. No, in terms of diversifying or representing what makes Filipinos Filipino. No, kasi for a long time, parang the dominant parang description of what makes Filipinos Filipino is Tagalog and Christian,
Mhm.
specifically Catholic Christian, and there's nothing wrong about it about celebrating Tagalogness and Christianity, no. Especially because the majority of the Filipinos can speak Tagalog or Filipino and are Christian, no. But we have to accept that we are more than that, no. We have several ethno-linguistic groups in the country having their own tongues, practices, and ways of living. We have groups who still practice their traditional beliefs alongside modern ones, for example, or we have more than 6 million Muslim Filipinos, for example. In short, we are not a monolithic country. We are a diverse one, and we should learn to accept that, no? So obviously, there have been a lot of artists naman, not just in the music industry, that have tried celebrating our diversity. Pero unfortunately, the dominant one is still strong hanggang ngayon. So in the P-pop industry, it can also be said na dominant talaga yung namamayani until Alamat came into the picture, no. So in this
Right.
video, for example, sa K-Bai, they are proud of their roots, no, and tongues, no. So sabi nga ni Eric, they are holding parang jeepney marker signs, no, saying where they are from and singing in their own languages, no. So it's really a blast, no. And nabanggit ni Eric na what they're doing is also something I relate to, coming from an independent publishing house that produces books for children and teens written in the different languages of the Philippines. So our company is actually called Aklat Alamid. Malapit na sa Alamat, no? As in Alamid, as in the civet cat, no? And we started in 2017, and actually the logos of Alamat and Aklat Alamid are very similar kasi letter A din kami, letter A na ginagamit. So purely coincidental, no? Pero happy kami na coincidental. Kasi, and we started this publishing house kasi most of the children's books in the Philippines are written in English and Filipino and produced in Metro Manila, no?
Right.
So ang nangyari, we produce in our publishing house, we produce and will release books also written in Ilocano. We have books in Ilocano, Ibanag, Kankanae, Hiligaynon, and recently Kinarayan, parang to name a few, no. Sure, no, parang we love books naman, or we enjoy books written in English and Filipino, but we have around 120 to 187 languages, no, depending on how you count and who counts, no. And the thing is, we don't promote these languages. The thing is, if we don't promote these languages, they die kasi, no? So when a language dies, the identity of the group who uses that language also dies, no? So in fact, two of these 187 languages have already died, no? Wala nang users. Dalawang Agta languages, no? So yes, para sa akin, Alamat is trailblazing talaga in terms of recognizing who we really are as Filipinos, no? That we are diverse. We have a colorful history. We are an archipelago. We have a lot of islands, no? And we speak several tongues talaga. So that's important din.
Right.
Yeah. Tapos, Eric, na problem kasi, isa din sa mga earlier discussions namin ni Eric, no, about Alamat is about the idea of tokenism and cultural appropriation. Kasi a lot of parang artists or creators in the Philippines parang also use different elements from different cultural groups in the Philippines, pero for token lang, or para lang masabi na ganyan, no? Anong take mo dito, Eric?
Kasi before, MJ showed me, I showed MJ a tweet regarding Alamat, and then if the concept is so good and if the music is so good and they commanded people's attention kasi during that time there were a lot of articles written about their debut. Okay? There are a lot of people who are suspicious, okay? And they said, baka token lang yan. Okay? Maybe they're just using culture as a gimmick. Okay? If the branding is culture, Filipino culture, isn't there a danger that they're appropriating, let's say, other people's culture? Okay? Kasi now we live in a day and age na we're beginning to become a bit more aware, be more progressive when it comes to representing cultures that are not ours. Okay? So, yun nga, we talked about it and we said, let's give Alamat a chance kasi it's too early to say whether they're really just using culture as a gimmick. Okay? Pero now, I've stayed, my stan life has 2 years na ba? Okay. More than 1 year na ang pagsastan ko sa Alamat. And we've noticed that they're really consistent with that branding. They are not only using culture as a gimmick, they're very consistent in terms of their fashion, their choreography, pinag-isipan. Their concept is made with scholarly rigor, okay, I think. Because of their advocacies, a lot of Filipino elements that are forgotten in contemporary times are having conversations again. So, MJ, kwentuhan mo naman kami, what makes something token? Or how do we say that a cultural or literary production is appropriating a culture? Kasi with Alamat, the members are involved in terms of writing their music. Okay? And they're part of the team that constructs their lyrics. They have a say regarding their productions.
Oo.
Sige, MJ.
Mahirap na question, no? Pero it's a thing that we need to seriously discuss din talaga, no, tokenism and cultural appropriation, no. Parang I describe tokenism and cultural appropriation as just parang using elements from a certain cultural group for this, just for the sake of it, or responsibly, or for primarily commercial purposes, no. So parang kikita, ganyan. The opposite of that would be parang intentional use, no? Sabi nga ni Eric, pinag-isipan of these elements for the promotion of the cultural group or the culture, no? And I personally think after seeing Alamat's other videos, no, na their branding naman is diversity and inclusion talaga ever since, no? So I'd like to add din sa description ni Eric about Alamat, no, na hindi lang pinag-isipan, kundi pinangatawanan, no? Parang ano ba sa English ang pinangatawan? They embodied it, parang gano'n. Parang mas gano'n yung literal translation, no, kasi katawan, no. May embodiment talaga nung cultural celebration, no, kung ano. So hindi naman, no. And siguro we will discuss later after the second video, no, na merong danger din kasi yung pagiging parang purely purist, kasi sabi nila Alamat is just putting accents from different accents or elements from different cultural groups, no. Pero may danger din from being purist or too nativist, kasi iba na tayo today, no. We are right now as Filipinos is different from our past, no. So we are a mixture of the interactions of different histories and cultures, and Alamat is celebrating that, no. So for me, mas appreciation talaga siya, no, kaysa tokenism and cultural appropriation. So yun.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. I was wondering, I agree with you fully about, like almost like everything that you guys said. Like, I think Alamat is disrupting I think, national kind of, how do you call this? Like music, Philippine music is always Tagalog or English. And I can relate with you also because I write fiction in Cebuano. So and before it's not part of Philippine literature, like it's just original literature, right? So I think that's why I think Alamat is trailblazing. But I was wondering if there are other music groups that have also been inspired by Alamat and kind of like pursue the same path to make sure that there is this representation of Philippine diversity, which is again very important based on this conversation. Have you guys noticed any development recently because you're based in the Philippines?
Hirap ang tanong. Hirap ang tanong kasi sa P-pop industry, one thing I've noticed recently din after Alamat, no, halimbawa, for example, other boy band groups in the Philippines, actually pati girl band groups in the Philippines, no,
Right.
Parang ever since Alamat, parang showcase diversity, parang ganyan. Parang these other groups now also highlight parang culture din. Tapos they're proud kung saan sila galing. Dati,
Right.
kuan lang sila labeled as performers or members of that group, no, not tied to a certain region or not tied to a certain language or cultural group, no. Pero ngayon parang gusto na rin lang i-highlight yun yung ano.
Right.
So feel ko positive influence talaga yun ng Alamat. Parang sabi nga lang, mga comments magbabasa ako ng comments ng iba na pressure daw sa Alamat, no, kasi nakikita nilang may essence, pinag-isipan talaga at pinakatawanan ng Alamat yung representation and diversity.
Right.
Okay.
Sorry, my lights just turned off because it's motion censored. I'm gonna move.
Sige, Sir Jason.
So,
Add ko lang din sa
oh,
sinabi ni MJ. Yes, Miss Precious.
I just wanted to make a comment, sort of, I think to see this in mainstream, tells like the speakers themselves that their language is valued. I never thought singing different languages in one song, and how would we understand it? And, Alamat did such a great job showing us the reality like that we are in this multilingual world. We code switch, this is part of my normal day. And just watching that video, I understood the concept. Of course there's other things that is language too, like the movements, the symbols. So yeah.
Right. There's a sense of empowerment. No? Like imagine me from a small city down south, hearing Alas, our closest representative, someone who speaks Binisaya and is unapologetic about it, there's a certain sense of gratification, of fulfillment of having someone speak the language, given attention, and basically just having a good time entertaining people. And may I just add to what MJ said? We are not claiming that Alamat is the pioneer, the first ever group to champion Filipino culture, because the idea of a boy band, the idea of a group that entertains people, okay, can be traced back to historically a lot of forms in Philippine history. Like we can attach it to the 90s. Ako dati naging stan ako ng Backstreet Boys. Okay? And before that, there are also we can connect that to the idea of marching bands. Like during Philippine War, there were a group of people playing instruments, rallying people to fight, or aside from fighting, to entertain them. And that brings me to my next question, sana to MJ, na if Alamat is so good, if the concept really is groundbreaking, if they're championing diversity and all that, what's stopping them from, kumbaga, skyrocketing and basically becoming a household name? There is a stumbling block to that. There's always the suspicion that P-pop is an imitation of a more popular form, K-pop. So here in the Philippines, if you ask people what's P-pop, and if you introduce them, let's say to Alamat and other P-pop groups, the first comment or the general sentiment is that, ay, parang K-pop. Aren't they K-pop? They look K-pop. And I think we have to hurdle that first. Like MJ, you're familiar with the idol industry, di ba? K-pop also hails from from J-pop. I think J-pop came earlier than P-pop. So,
Oo.
ano thoughts mo dito na imitation daw ng form ang P-pop?
Oo. Pero parang I think naman imitation is part and parcel of parang the history of the arts, pati ng culture, no? That's how art and culture work, no? Creators are inspired by other creators and trends, no? So K-pop, for example, is not entirely or completely Korean talaga, no? In essence talaga, it's inspired by, for example, hip-hop from the United States, no? Actually, mas hip-hop nga yung sabi ng ilang scholars, K-pop is more hip-hop than Korean daw, no? Kung tanggalin yung language, for example, no? So I think more than parang labeling lang na P-pop is K-pop, no? We should highlight siguro how P-pop groups, especially in the case of Alamat, adopts this form as their own, no? So halimbawa, for example, in our culture, we have the jeepney, for example, no? Obviously, the jeepney is a product of American colonization, pero we are now using it as a means of transportation. We extended it so more people could be accommodated, and we embellish it with markers of our identity. And I think that's how, that's what Alamat is doing, no? So they're taking a form, parang trendy form, global trend na form, and in-embellish nila at nilagyan na lang stamp ng kanilang sariling branding, no? So feel ko doon nagse-separate, no? So hindi naman kailangang black and white na we should separate it from K-pop entirely, kasi we shouldn't deny it na may inspired talaga din yung P-pop industry doon, no? Pero mag-focus din tayo sa anong ginagawa nilang new, ang bago nilang binibigay. So ganun. So nuanced na perspective on this thing, a thing about imitation, no? So yun, siguro. Yes. I agree.
Mhm.
Right, so I think we need to hurdle that muna, no? Sana matibag muna. We need to destroy that notion that P-pop is just an imitation, because P-pop is part of OPM. Okay, P-pop is OPM. It contributes to our idea of a national music.
Sige.
Okay, I'm also checking Twitter and other social media if people are writing comments or asking questions. But basically, that's it from my end.
All right. Are you guys ready to watch the next video and comment on it? All right. Precious, could you remove the how do you call this?
Sorry.
The pin on,
I'll remove it. Okay.
yeah, so I could show. All right, so we're gonna watch the second video. Let me just prepare to make sure that the document can. I don't know why. Precious, could you actually do it? I don't know what's wrong with my with the link that I have here.
No problem.
All right.
All right. So our next video is Say You Love Me. Yeah.
Won't you say you love me? Whoa, ako pa ba ang iyong minamahal? Won't you say you need me? Whoa, sabihin mo ang iyong dinadama. Parang wala kang nararamdaman tuwing hinahawakan ng iyong kamay. Parang hindi ako ang nilalaman ng puso't isip mo na dati kong gamay. Bakit ang tingin mo sa'kin di na tulad dati? Meron bang nag-iba pakisabi? Para namang wala, akala ko lang yan pero tama nga sila. Meron ng iba nagpapasaya, iba-iba ang iyong kasama. Minsan pa nga nahuli kita na ay kagakos kakatawa. Maona ni ron, pisa ka ron, waragya po na tagam. Pero bakit ba ganyan? Baby, salamat na lang. Won't you say you love me? Whoa, ako pa ba ang iyong minamahal? Won't you say you need me? Whoa, sabihin mo ang iyong dinadama. Parang wala ka nang nararamdaman tuwing hinahawakan ng iyong kamay. Parang hindi ako ang nilalaman ng puso't isip mo na dati kong gamay. Wako ganay sa naitabo, ang dami nangyari na wako balo. Madili na sapat, kung sa man akong buhato ni mo, hindi na kayo hindi ko alam. Maniniwala ba dapat sa'yo? Para saan ba ito laban na to? Ayaw maalala ang nakaraan, pag nadam ko anti ka marag masakitan. Pero pagkagising gustong balikan, mahalin ka sana muli huwag na hibalik. Pero ang iba nagpapasaya, iba-iba yung kasama. Minsan pa nga nahuli kita na ay kagagos katawa. Maona ni ron, bisag ron, wag iyabon na tagam. Pero bakit ba ganyan? Baby, salamat na lang. Won't you say you love me? Whoa, ako pa ba ang iyong minamahal? Won't you say you need me? Whoa, sabihin mo ang iyong dinadama. Parang wala ka nang nararamdaman tuwing hinahawakan ng iyong kamay. Parang hindi ako ang nilalaman ng puso't isip mo na dati kong gamay. Bakit ang tingin mo sa'kin di na pakisabi para namang wala. Akala ko lang yun pero tama nga sila.
All right. That looks a little different, right? So, Eric, MJ, would you like to give your thoughts now?
Ito yung sinasabi ni, this is what MJ is referring to as pinangatawanan, katawan. Okay.
The body.
I think Binisaya speakers who are here with us, Sir Jason, you speak Binisaya,
Mhm.
right? You're
Mhm.
from CDO.
Cagayan de Oro, yeah. Yeah.
Cagayan de Oro, ayun. So, Sir Jason and I speak Mindanaoan Binisaya. This is a little bit different than Cebuanong Binisaya, okay, which is the language spoken in
Cebu.
Cebu. Ayan. So, Bisaya or Binisaya was given a spotlight in Say You Love Me, especially in their music video.
Mhm.
One of the striking elements that we can see there is the patik-patik design in their clothes. Mo was wearing one, yung kanyang inner shirt. Okay, now
Mhm.
tattooing that references the pintados, our native Filipinos who adorn their bodies with ink, with ornaments. Now, I think one thing I can discuss from Say You Love Me here is the native body, wadi yadi yadi. A lot of people were commenting that Jim Amen's choreography, very sensual, kaldagan, daw, does not jive daw with the music. But a lot of a lot of comments were saying na, uy, bakit kaldagan? Bakit ganun yung why are they thrusting their hips like that? Why the gyrations? A lot of people were defending this too because the R&B-ish vibe is really what we call as what Magilo said before. It's love-making music. And the pre-colonial, sorry for the term, the native Bisaya, the native Binisaya were really earthy, very sensual. A lot of our pre-colonial productions before were referencing the body as an intermediary of art, of magic, and a lot of native performances were celebrating the earthiness, the sensuality of the Filipino body. So I'd like to read Say You Love Me, especially the music video of Alamat, as a reclaiming of our sensuality, our native sexuality, if we're going to use that term. We can see there that they're using movements that were once choreographed by our colonial masters. When colonialism happened, a lot of our native expressions were what do you call this? Were stopped, were censored, okay, Bowdlerized, kumbaga. This was all under the notion of civility, of European civitas. Kasi as Rizal Mujares, our national artist once said, docile subjects, docile people make good subjects. If colonizers are able to demand or to choreograph people into obeying, they made use of costumbres, of manuals. We can see this in old literature, like what's this epistolary novel about two sisters?
Felisa, Urbana at
Exchanging letters.
Felisa.
Yes, okay. That's an example of a costumbre, of a manual. We see there what's the ideal way to interact with people. So This Say You Love Me production, I think, can be read as a celebration. Okay, again, a challenge to ideas of civility, of propriety, this idea of decorum as signalers of class, because they revel in it. Okay, hindi
Mhm.
siya for the sake of let's say getting people's attention. Okay, especially I say that and I claim that. Okay, hindi lang naman siya overreading kasi there's the idea, it's all framed under the context of um Binisaya pre-colonial, okay, elements. Okay. MJ, you can choose to disagree with me. Okay. MJ is prim and proper. Joke lang. Okay.
Hmm. Siguro, tingin ko naman, agree naman ako kay Eric na no, parang itong video na ito, it's about parang celebrating the body, yung reclaiming our native, uh, parang perspectives na rin on how we look at the body, no? Parang ganun. Pero, pero Eric, sa tingin mo ba may danger din ang pagiging parang nativist in a way? Kasi parang isa din sa mga one of the things na parang sinasabi sa Alamat is
Indigenous lagi.
parang native kasi
Mm-mm.
parang daming native elements. May danger ba ang parang being too nativist or purist?
Mm-mm. I think you're saying that kasi nga, napag-usapan natin dati na bakit parang kulang, parang bitin. Why is it that there are not a lot of Filipino native elements in Say You Love Me? Parang doon lang sila nag-concentrate sa Binisaya, tattooing.
Yeah.
I think that the comment or the conversation is because they've been used to seeing Alamat championing parang pre-colonial elements in their previous music videos. So that when Say You Love Me was aired, people thought that the branding of Alamat relied mainly on the nativist take sa Filipino culture. Pag sinabi kasi natin, if we say nativism, it's like we cage Filipino identity and culture into things that happened before colonization. Okay, there was a movement before. I think it's still relevant. Yung post-colonialism, wherein we affirm productions, we affirm elements that kumbaga untouched or are still surviving despite colonialism, and that's good naman. We celebrate the indigenous, we celebrate the native. But I think, as what MJ pointed out, it's not truthful to rely always on a nativist Filipino identity, because Alamat's branding is not that. I think they're not saying here we are and we're here to champion Filipino identity that was formed and untouched by colonialism, because Filipino cultural identity now is also touched and influenced by
A lot of things.
a lot of things, right? Colonialism, for example. So, dangerous and nativist take. MJ, baka gusto mo magbigay ng example sa mga
Sige.
nativist na ideas.
Yes,
Yeah,
Jason.
I was just wondering about, I think, the notion of nativism. Because if anything, I don't think Alamat is nativist at all, right? Just the idea of combining all these elements from different or various ethno-linguistic groups and also incorporating, for instance, Tagalog into the song, plus other languages, I don't think it's nativist, right? So I think it's important to I think further elaborate on the notion of nativism. So yes, MJ, I just want to facilitate that. Yeah.
Agree din ako doon, Jason, no? Parang nabanggit ka na there's a danger in being too nativist. Ibig sabihin nga, sabi ni Eric na parang we only celebrate those that happened before our colonization. So anything beyond the pre-colonial period of the Philippines, parang na siya, tainted na with ano. So pero that's not our reality, yung sinasabi nga ni Jason, no? So we
Right.
should embrace who we are right now as Filipinos. Sure, we should celebrate our past, but a lot has changed since then, no? So for example, we were colonized by the West and they left a mark on us. No? Now we are in the globalized world. Kaka-discuss lang natin about the influence of K-pop, no, and influences from different cultures. Parang pumapasok dito sa Philippines, no. And to be honest, there are things from our past that people are starting to question if we should celebrate talaga. So for example, in my case, because I'm also a practicing anthropologist, no, merong indigenous groups dito sa Southern Mindanao, no, na parang dati, pre-colonial period, they practice early marriage, no, so child marriage, no. So actually, that's a widespread practice in many of the indigenous groups in the Philippines, especially pre-colonial in the pre-colonial period, no. Pero now a lot of indigenous groups are saying they don't want to continue that practice because hindi na applicable, no. Their context have changed, and so they recognize these changes, and that what is Alamat is doing, no. That they try to understand what the contemporary Filipino society is. So halimbawa, in the case of multilingualism na evident pa rin dito sa video, no. So for example, the government is pushing for the multilingual MTB, mother tongue based
MLE.
education policy, no. So okay, great, no. So they want learners to use their own mother tongues, no, para sa learning nila, no. Pero they still operate in a monolingual perspective. So halimbawa, sa region na ito, they only should teach in Binisaya, no, kahit na there are people who speak other languages from that region, no. So hindi kasi yun yung present natin. So for example, in Eric and I's case, in our region, we code switch a lot, no, and there are actually movements in our region, writers, artists na they use different languages, elements from different languages, no, in their works, no, and ganun din ang ginagawa, no. So for example nga, we have songs written primarily in Filipino, no? So hindi lang siya monolingual, and there are lines, no, sung in different languages. So mixture talaga siya, no? So hindi ang ginawa nila na there's a Filipino song, there's a Ilocano song, there's a Binisaya song, pero kinumbine to kasi that's our reality. Kahit na even in the regions that we think are monolingual, halimbawa sa Cordilleras, they have their own indigenous languages. They speak Ilocano as their lingua franca, Filipino as the national language, and English as the global language. Especially in Metro Manila, where people from different places parang immigrated to, di ba? So pag maririnig mo lang, magiging kwan ka lang attentive to sa pagdinig. There are a lot of people in Metro Manila who speak different tongues, no, and they code switch a lot, no. So parang doon ako happy na. So Alamat is not just, sabi nga ni Sir Jason, na hindi lang pala sila nativist na parang black and white lang sa kanila, kundi may understanding talaga ng anong nangyayari sa ground, no? At sa ground, napaka-complex, diverse, at napaka-nuance ng nangyayari, no? So yun siguro. So happy ako na Alamat is celebrating not just our past, no, pero the contemporary Filipino society din. So yun. So yun yung take ko doon, no.
Precious, do you have comments or questions?
Yeah, I think, groups like Alamat sort of helps to navigate our hybrid or like blended identity. Kind of like me, I'm Filipino American. I spent half my childhood in the Philippines, also half here in Hawaii. So for a long time, I thought I had to be one or the other, but blended. That's my identity, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's a very common experience for many Filipinos because we move around, right? We are not actually stagnant. So in my case also, for instance, it's really hard when people ask me, where are you from? I'm from Bukidnon, but I'm also from Cagayan de Oro. And for some people, they don't understand that. And then I moved here to Hawaii, and I bring all of those experiences with me, right? My multilingual, multicultural experiences, which makes my life, I think, beautiful. And I think our diversity, our multilingual, multilingualism in the Philippines make our experience as Filipinos very colorful. And I think that's what we're experiencing through Alamat when every time I watch or listen to their songs. Are we ready for the next music video? I will try this time to play from my end because I think the
Yeah.
university Wi-Fi has a
It's
better.
Sorry.
All right.
Spectrum.
Let me do that. All right. So I should be able to share my screen now.
I will
Right.
also,
Are you guys see my screen, right?
yes.
You can hear it as well.
Initulugan ay wala diri mo nanay. Kanto tinta bakal papay. Initulugan ay alamat handa.
Ano ba? Ganyan ka na lang pala. Gilagi kang sinusunod para tumahan ka na. Hindi ka ba nag-iisip na may naghihirap doon? Kailangan natin magtipid, sige isipin mo yung kung puro luho ang gusto, parang ang dami ng kusing. Luha na nagdarali, tatomba sila pang singkunduling. Kaya ipasok mo sa ibuturan ng iyong sentido. Kailanman di madali sa kanya ang pagsakripisyo. Aking kapatid, di mo ba nababatid? Mga magulang natin ay piniling lumayo para mabigyang alalay mga paan natin sa kinabukas ay tatayo. Tsaka sikmura mong di nakukulong. Huwag ka nang magmumukmuk para din naman sa atin yan. Kung ba tuwing selebrasyon wala sila, kaya pigilan mo ang iyong puso, tapo ang itinitibok. Tila naman tayo ang ganito.
Gabi-gabi at umaga, panghuli lang ang damang. Hihintayin ang araw na tayo'y magsasama-sama.
Hello, tabi pa. Ma, nadadawang tabi nindo ako.
Sa buhay ang pagkamusta sa kada mapud ka pirming pangaji. Sana lamang makauli ka na. Puno pag nadango kang boses pagkahuro na. Salamat sa kabuhos na sakripisyo. Dawa ka na sara. Ayos ka ba dyan, Nay? Kumusta ka naman, Tay? Nakakatulog pa ba ng mahimbing tuwing gabi? Kumakain sa oras na buhang ngumiti sa kabila ng kapagkuran na at matinding kalungkutan na
Ilubon pa, una-una lait kong pagkita. Basta malibay lang mo, atila ko. Usag ka ayaw kami magtrabaho para iyong makaulila ka mo. Ang malitigda ang buhit kong ginoo.
Sige, Nay. Tay, magluluto lang na ako para paningan to.
Dong, day, atus ratagamay. Di panganak tang alisod, ginikanan nato kung unsa nalay buhaton para di rata magutman kahuna-huna ba mo o dili ragyun makahuna-huna. Ayaw ra kong pagkata ang kamo parang may gana magpulis maot. Kenis ka na magluhang pamutugo. Wala na tayo mabuhat, kundi dawato ng tanan na kinina ang kamanura.
at umaga, pag-ulila ang nadawa. Hihintayin ang araw na tayo'y magsama-sama.
Usto ng tiyag sa ang itawan ng tipig sa kinamnama. Naibus pa yan din luluwak. Siyak baila ang itim ang ngayon kada kayo ang mamin.
E balinong lalaki ng siping taat Chuko keni para kay kayo lingaman dakay. Ay kailangan mangulila ulingan kanta kayo luguran dakay. Malwat na lang ala kung bantatang yupong ima.
Tang, muli na kayo.
Gabi-gabi at umaga, pangulila ang damang. Hihintayin ang araw na tayo'y magsasama-sama.
super interesting.
All right. Yeah, that's a beautiful music video, I would say. When I first watched that, I said, this is my favorite. And I understand we have Ilocano speakers and also Pampango speakers in the audience. So you guys are welcome to ask questions or share your thoughts as well. So let's have Eric and MJ share their thoughts now.
Po. So parang sa Ili-Ili no, interesting nga sinabi, someone in the chat mentioned it na it's about the video really captures the OFW experience, no. So interesting din yun kasi it's also a fact, no, in the contemporary Filipino society that a lot of Filipinos live outside of the Philippines, no. So Filipinos who work abroad, tapos a lot of them have settled na in the areas where they're working, no. So halimbawa, so may generation of Filipinos, so the Precious, for example, na who identify as Filipino Americans, no. So and meron mga nagsasabi na this is a recent trend lang, pero actually it's not, no. Filipinos have been migrating, or hindi man migrating, pero going around places, no. So for example, sa pre-colonial, we have trading systems, no, between different countries, Chinese, Arabians, ganyan na. During the Spanish period, we have the galleon trade nga, di ba? Actually, tama ba? If I'm not wrong, a lot of parang Filipino Americans trace din their parang history sa galleon trade kasi a lot of Filipinos parang stayed in Mexico or lower part of Mexico kasi dumadaan sa may California part pababa nung papuntang Mexico yung ruta, no. So maraming influences din, no, so sa galleon trade. Tapos meron din syempre American period when a lot of Filipinos were sent parang sa, for example, sa Hawaii, tapos sa US, karamihan sa kanila naging plantation workers, for example, no. Tapos nung martial law era after the World War II, kasi syempre galing sa destruction, a lot of labor force, no, Filipino labor force was also sent abroad, no. So parang it's the reality of the Filipinos talaga that we go around places, no, and we have developed identities, and these Filipinos who work abroad and in the diaspora din, no, have their own experiences din and have developed their own identities. And ito yung parang online, parang lagi ko nakikita na parang merong distinction between Filipinos who are born and raised in the Philippines and Filipinos who are outside the Philippines, who are parang second or third generation Filipinos, no, or who are not full-blooded, no, parang there's someone who is pure, tapos there's someone na hindi pure. Sabi nga nila, parang, yun pa rin bang ginagamit, parang hilaw na Filipino, parang not fully, ano bang hilaw, no, parang unripe, or kaya uncooked, parang hindi complete, short na Filipino, parang half Filipino ka nga. Pero sabi ni Precious, they are still Filipinos. We are all Filipinos, no, kahit nasa labas tayo at sa loob ng bansa, no. So hindi siya productive na discussion din na we box people into sino ito at no. So maganda rin tong Ili-Ili kasi it tackles nga about the experiences of the overseas Filipino workers kasi meron ding parang myth din na if you work abroad, you'd be considered a hero, no, a modern hero, no. Siyempre, sure, maraming benefits ang natatanggap natin sa OFW, sa mga OFW remittances lalo na, no. But we should also parang recognize the hardship of these Filipinos who work abroad, no. Especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, di ba? A lot of who work in the medical industry in different countries in the world are Filipinos or who have Filipino origins talaga or origins in the Philippines, no. So napaka-interesting kasi hindi lang nagfo-focus yung Alamat ngayon hindi lang sila nagfo-focus sa within the reality within the Philippines, pero they are also nagfo-focus din sila sa realities of Filipinos outside of the Philippines. So parang they are saying na kahit saan ka man, ano man experiences mo, umalis ka man sa bansa to, ilang taon man yan, sa amang lugar yan, you are still Filipinos and we hear you, no, and we recognize your experiences. We recognize kung ano ang pinagdadaanan mo. So parang napaka-brave na thing yun para sa akin. Kaya I agree din Sir Jason no na Ili-Ili is one of my favorites din sa Alamat songs kasi grabe talaga no, parang recognition to the global level yung binabanggit nila. Pero nabanggit din ni Precious dito in our chat box no that Ili-Ili is actually a play on words no.
Mhm.
Ili kasi yeah, Hiligay Nun lullaby na Ili-Ili no. Siguro Eric kasi si Eric is part Hiligay Nun din. Can you explain din what's this Ili-Ili no? Tapos how Alamat interpreted this cultural production of the Ilonggos? Eric?
Okay. So Ili-Ili is a lullaby. It's commonly sung to a child. You want to sleep. Ili-ili tulog anay, wala diri imo nanay or tatay. Kadto tiyenda bakal papay. So there's a narrative in that lullaby. Okay? The parent is absent because they're out to buy bread. So napaka-genius ng interpretation ng Alamat. Their reading of Kanto Tiyenda Bakal Papay is not literally out there to buy bread. Kasi di ba bread in Filipino culture also refers to making money.
Mhm.
Di ba? In English, di ba? Dough, money, bread. Literal. So, the music video shows parents who are out there, okay, absentee parents sila because they're out to make money for the children. So, ang ganda ng interpretation, ang ganda ng reading nung lullaby na yon with that video about OFW parents. They're not here. Okay, let's say a sibling is singing to a baby that their parents are out there. So parental sacrifice. Okay. And also, katulad ng na-mention ni MJ, okay, yung Filipino-ness that Alamat is championing, very inclusive. Kasama ang Filipino diaspora. Okay. It's not inward archipelagic lang, okay? If you identify as a Filipino and you're out there, you're part of it, okay? I'd like to think that one of the Alamat members also is a good representation of the Filipino diaspora. Si Taneo, di ba?
Yes.
Siak ni Taneo is always introducing himself as a representative of the Kalinga, the Cordillera region, the Ilocanos, but there's one overlooked representation that Taneo is championing. Okay, the Filipino diaspora. Okay, you're not separate from the Philippines. If you're out there and you identify as a Filipino, you are Filipino. Okay, distance, local setting, it doesn't matter. Okay, identity encompasses everything. Okay, and si MJ na-mention na rin yung Hiligay Nun. Yun ang Ili-Ili. I like that Alamat is trying to erase, not really erase, but add to the layers of that lullaby because there's a horror film that used that lullaby as a soundtrack, yung White Lady. So it's popular on TikTok when people use that tune. The atmosphere or at least the vibe is horror. Okay. But now parang na-reclaim siya ng Alamat na it's basically about parental sacrifice of love, etc. And recently si MJ published a book written in Hiligay Nun and also kinaray Precious knows kinaray one of the books by Aklat Alamid has this notion, makes use of the notion of the repetitive words in Hiligay Nun. Okay. Kay, di ba Miss Precious, if we express superlatives in Hiligay Nun, we tend to repeat it. Okay? Si Precious ay maganda, guwapa si Precious, but we say guwapa gidya si Precious. Okay? we duplicate words in order to put emphasis on them. Okay? And that's a Hiligay Nun linguistic feature that I think is carried over in Ili-Ili, and as what Precious pointed out, ang ganda ng styling na I love you, Ili-Ili ang kanilang gamit. So love is the theme of the song. Yeah. MJ, recently may nakilala tayong someone who edited an anthology on Filipino diaspora.
Yeah, oo, si Miss Lilar Rispens Noel. Parang
I have her book. Teka.
she's a writer from Davao del Sur, tapos parang nasa 60s na siya, no? Tapos na-realize niya na parang, syempre, there are a lot of films, documentaries about the Philippine experience abroad, no? Pero there are only a few books, no, about the Filipinos in diaspora din sa iba't ibang places, especially, for example, ang focus
Hong
niya
Kong.
yata ay Hong Kong, no? Tapos,
Mm.
parang similar dito nung binasa ko, parang similar dito sa Ili-Ili talaga, no, na parang, ay, tungkol nga sa Filipino diaspora, no. At yun nga, actually, yung younger self ko din, dahil may period, may era din ako na kuan, parang may era din ako na masyado akong averse towards anything galing sa labas, especially from Filipino Americans, ganyan-ganyan. Kasi sabi ko, parang ganun. Pero na-realize ko, interacting and reading about the experiences of Filipino Americans, Filipinos living abroad, no, na parang super rich ng kanilang experiences, at a lot of their experiences parang have informed my perspectives din on parang, parang embracing talaga who we are as Filipinos, na hindi tayo nga monolithic na country, diverse talaga tayo. So minsan may friends ako who are Filipino Americans, minsan sinasabi nila dati they pressure other Filipino Americans to for example to learn the Filipino language, to halimbawa to eat adobo or whatnot, parang ganyan, no.
Balot.
Sinigang, balut.
But then I realized na parang kahit hindi nila gawin yon, automatic na Filipino sila, no? Filipino. Tapos hindi kailangan natin gawing standard or uniform ang pagiging Filipino. Na-realize din namin that it's also a privilege, no, to parang kung ano ba, if you're Filipino living abroad, to exercise being parang exercise being quote-unquote Filipino, yung eating adobo, learning to talk in Filipino, kasi it's a privilege talaga. For example, what if that Filipino American doesn't have access to anyone who speaks Filipino, di ba? O kaya walang adobo sa kanila. It
Mahal yung
must
soy sauce.
be
Or
less
bagoong.
Filipino. That's his reality, no? So, pero hindi naman big sabihin nun na we stop educating other than din na ito ang Filipino culture, no? Pero wag lang siguro tayo maging extreme na essentialist, no? Maging alamat tayo, no? We should embrace everyone, no, na recognize themselves na bilang Filipino. Kasi that's what Filipino is right now, no?
Right.
Iba-ibang experiences.
Yeah, I agree, definitely, MJ. And I think even our Filipino program used to be guilty of that because we are a Filipino program outside the Philippines, right? So our curriculum reflected mostly about the Filipino experience in the Philippines. And then, of course, we were, recently we're more informed about research, and definitely there's a lot of Filipino identities out there that should be also reflected in our curriculum, including Filipino Americans. So our curriculum expands or has expanded to include those experiences. And that's very, very important, very empowering on their part. There is a comment from Twitter. It says, I didn't know there were cultural appropriation allegations of their own culture. What's wrong with people? All I know for sure is #Alamat is mainly catered by and for Filipinos. So if they were appropriating, they would have blown up by now. Yeah, so that's a that's a comment from Twitter. I also like the Ili Ili song because I'm Cebuano and I am actually an overseas Filipino worker, right? So, I'm this typical OFW who would send money to the Philippines to my parents and my siblings. And I'm not Bayani. But when I heard the lyrics of the song where they sang it in Cebuano, that's when it's really I felt so emotional. Because most of the time, the Philippine experience is narrated through or sung through Tagalog, right? And then me being Cebuano, being also reflected in that experience, I could hear the emotion, or I could, feel the emotion expressed in those lyrics. I think there's this special attachment, and for me, that was really beautiful. Yeah. Yes, sir, Eric.
Ay, lalo na yung sinabi ni Alas nga, kahuna-huna ba mo o di lang syud mo makahuna-huna. Kaya there's a play in the meaning of huna-huna there. No? If you're a Binisaya speaker, you really get the gist of what Alas's angst is trying to say. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Now, MJ mentioned about OFWs being branded as heroes. Like, what do you think of that, MJ? Na parang, yes, OFWs are heroes, but when something is branded as heroism, doesn't that take away accountability? Because we tend to view them as people who sacrifice for the benefit of their family. So when that attachment or label is part of the conversation, parang suddenly there isn't any other initiative to help them out because parang given na yes, you have to suffer because it's all for a good cause.
Oo. Oo nga 'no, interesting din 'yan yung point ni Eric 'no, because for a long time labeled ang OFWs as modern Filipino heroes 'no. Sa textbooks nakalagay yan 'no na OFWs are modern Filipino heroes 'no. Pero yun nga, it takes away parang the accountability especially from the authorities din no, to help these overseas Filipino workers. Kailangan mag-sacrifice lagi no, parang hero kailang kailang martir ganun no. Pero dapat hindi nga ganun. So parang magandang questionin din, i-question natin yung terms na hero sila no. I-recognize nga natin na may benefits yung ginagawa nila, pero kailangan din natin recognize yung ginagawa ng Alamat na may hardship silang pinagdadaanan na hindi lang masasagot ng pag-label sa kanila na hero sila no. Kailangan there should be parang actions, concrete actions no to address the hardship, the issues that they experience living or working abroad no. So yun. Mm. Salamat Eric sa pag-bring up na no. Interesting point din.
Okay. And siguro to tie it up, based sa ating mga discussions ngayon, if we have participants here who are educators and Alamat is really a gold mine for lessons for baka sa Philippine program ni Sir Jason, Miss
Yep.
Precious, you can make use of Alamat songs as
Yep.
a starting point for discussions because I've tried it in my classes and it just using one music video and then a catchy tune from Alamat, it opens up a wealth of discussions related to Filipino culture. Like
Mhm.
suddenly, contemporary issues like the OFW experience are brought up, and
Mhm.
there is a kumbaga unifying theme that Alamat has started, and it easily resonates with people from all walks of life, students, parents,
Mhm.
various people. So, putting all things together, all the MVs that we've watched today, there really is a common thread of empowerment, I think, inclusion, diversity. These are all geared towards making Filipinos feel valid, and they're not out there to inspire lang. They're out to change things, to shake things up. And it's about time that we support them and we pay attention to what they're doing.
Mm. Agree no Eric no. So sa amin din no sa publishing house namin no, parang pag meron kaming parang para explain yung publishing house namin, hindi namin maiwasan na explain din ang Alamat because may similar na mga goals no and advocacies talaga no. Yun nga making Filipinos all over the world feel valid talaga no na yung realities nila are valid realities or experiences no as Filipinos no. So personally I'm also excited na for sa next project, sa next songs ng Alamat kasi ito pa lang itong mga naunang videos pa nila sobrang parang sobrang hindi lang ako inspired talaga, parang na-move talaga ako sa ginawa nila.
Mhm.
So how much more sa next na mga songs or projects nila. Mm.
Mhm. Yeah. So Precious and I were just talking earlier about Alamat, and I told her, "Oh, I'm going to include this in my Philippine Social Linguistics class because I teach Philippine Social Linguistics here at the University of Hawaii." And so music, identities, and also language. I think this is a very interesting. I think, like for instance, Ili Ili is a good song. Like a topic for conversation in a social linguistics class. So definitely including it in my curriculum or syllabus next semester because I'm teaching Philippine social linguistics. And I agree with you. Definitely, I think it's an experience that, like it's a wealth of experience that we should leverage on. Like we have to make use of this experience or experiences, OFWs, and making sure that we also raise awareness about the experiences abroad, because it's not easy to be away from your family and loved ones. Yeah, Precious, would you like to add something?
No, it's been really great. Learned a lot about good talking points and topics. But yeah, it's really great to see this idea of Philippine languages be reflected in form of music. So hopefully we can see this in like books later on, translated maybe movies. I mean, movies maybe a little, but yeah, music is a good outlet for people who want to express their identity. So yeah, definitely put it in our curriculum.
Yeah. And I hope it will inspire more young artists also to, in different Philippine languages, to continue the movement that Alamat has started, like singing or incorporating their languages into their music. I think that would be so much. I think that would be a very beautiful thing to, look forward to in the future, diba?
Yes.
Right, Sir Jason. The very short lang din na observation. A lot of singing contests before overlook Filipino talents just because they have an accent. Okay, whenever a singer sings Filipino songs, OPM songs, and suddenly they sound Bisaya or they have an Ilonggo accent, suddenly, let's say reality TV coaches would say, you have to improve your diction. Like, you have to sound like someone na matatas sa Tagalog or matatas sa Filipino.
Right.
So I think that prevents a lot of talents from the regions, from different parts of the Philippines, from, let's say, improving their craft or getting into the music industry, because I have to have a certain characteristic to belong. Okay? And now we have here Alamat members who are singing with an accent. Some of them, they don't erase their accents when they sing. When they do their interviews, they talk in Filipino, but they're celebrating their accents. And I think that's a good representation for dreamers like them too.
Yes.
Yep, I agree. All right. Is this the end of our conversation? Do you guys have any final words, perhaps maybe a project or book to promote, or if anything? MJ?
Sige. Thank you again for inviting me in this wonderful discussion. No? So, parang sobrang happy talaga ako na ito yung discussion, because tulad ng banggit ko na Alamat and our publishing house, Aklat Alamin, yung nakalagay sa chat box, have the same fun din. Bukod sa logos, similar yung logos, no? We have the same goals, no? Promoting inclusion, diversity, in the as a representation dito sa artistic and cultural productions in the Philippines, no? So super happy ako na there's a group like Alamat talaga. So yun. So guys, i-follow nyo na yung Alamat sa lahat ng platforms, no? Present sila sa lahat ng platforms. Ayan. Thank you po again, once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, MJ. And Eric?
Wala naman ako ipa-plug. I just want to encourage people to stream Alamat's new album, yung Pasulong. If you're blown away by what you've seen and heard today sa three music videos, those are just mere tips of the iceberg, kumbaga. It's just a sampler of what they can do. Okay? You should hear Maharani and Hala in their Pasulong album. Okay? Sobrang rich. Okay? And support MJ's publishing house. Si Aki Alamid ay nangangapit bahay sa publishing house ni MJ. Alamid din ang kanilang. May mascot ba kayo, MJ?
Wala.
Wala. Yeah, they publish really good books, children's books in various languages. Right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sir Topsy, Sir Rwani, for the invitation. Sir Jason, the University of Hawaii, Ma'am Precious, we enjoyed this panel, and to everyone who attended.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. Maraming salamat. So again, support Alamat, everybody, and hope to see you in future conversations on Alamat and PPAP. Thanks, everyone. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Great.
Mahalo.
Bye bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Paalam.
you.